Well, the commits keep rolling in for WVU football in the transfer portal. Let's talk about another addition that's going to help West Virginia's offensive line this year. What's going on, Mountaineer Nation? Welcome back into the Country Roads webcast here for another WVU football transfer portal update. I've been trying to do some of these via live streams. I've been trying to get some of these out here as pre-recorded fashion as well. Yesterday, funny enough, I was doing a live stream updating the transfer commit we got at the linebacker position, which I'll pull up the transfer portal tracker momentarily, and we'll go over all the transfers in for West Virginia thus far, all the commitments that they've gained. And, of course, towards the tail end of that live stream, the news broke then that another commitment had rolled in for West Virginia, and that was Josh Isosa, an offensive lineman from Oklahoma, and that's going to be the subject of this video. Wanted to give him his due, cover him properly, since I only got to cover him at the tail end of a live stream yesterday when the commitment rolled in, kind of live react to it, but didn't get to talk extensively about it. Plus, I want to update the transfer target list here on this video. Got some names that have committed elsewhere we can remove from that list, and got a couple additions to the transfer target list that are also really exciting, I think. So with no further ado, we're going to get into it. We're going to talk Josh Isosa. We're going to update the transfer in list. We're going to update the transfer target list. That's what's on the schedule here for this transfer portal update. Before we get to all that, if you just do a quick favor for me, hit that thumbs up button. It really helps a ton with that YouTube algorithm. Helps us find more Mountaineer football fans like yourself. And if you are one of those Mountaineer football fans and you haven't already, be sure hit that subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything, and all it's going to allow you to do is stay up to date with the West Virginia football roster, with the transfer portal movement, all of that good stuff here. We'll keep up with it for you on the CRW. And then throw your thoughts in the comments. How do you feel about Josh Isosa's addition to this transfer class? How the transfer class is shaping up? Which one of the targets would you like to see West Virginia land? Anything you got there, we always appreciate those interactions as well. With no further ado, let's get into it. All right, so here is the initial tweet that I saw announcing this. This one from Matt Zenitz of 247 Sports. Oklahoma offensive line transfer Josh Isosa is signed with West Virginia. 6'3", 330-pound Isosa was part of OU's 2024 recruiting class and has 4 years of eligibility remaining. So, a couple of things here to be excited about. I think anytime you get a transfer from the SEC, from a power conference program, that's big. We know offensive line was a position of need for West Virginia. They're continuing to fill that here in this transfer portal window. In the 4 years of eligibility remaining is also a huge plus because he's someone that could help you down the line, not just this year, but moving forward in the future of WVU football as well. Played tackle initially coming out of high school, but then moved to center at Oklahoma. And I think that's where West Virginia is going to look to utilize him, is probably on the interior there at center or at guard. All right, so here is our transfer in list thus far for this cycle here in this post-spring transfer portal window for West Virginia, as Josh Isosa becomes the 7th name on the list. Just yesterday in a live stream, I covered Ben Bogle. Be sure to check that out if you haven't checked that out already. Got videos out on each one of these that have rolled in for West Virginia here in the portal. But just to recap for you guys, the transfers in thus far: offensive lineman Mikel Clay, 6'5", 300-pounder out of North Alabama. Tight end Grayson Barnes, a 6'5", 225 tight end out of Northern Illinois. Cornerback Nick Taylor, 6'1", 185-pounder out of App State. Wide receiver Christian Hamilton, 6 foot, 190-pounder from UNC. Defensive lineman Eddie Kelly Jr., 6'4", 280-pounder out of Missouri. And then, of course, linebacker Ben Bogle, 6'2", 225 out of Southern Illinois. And then, of course, the subject of this video, offensive lineman Josh Isosa, 6'3", 330-pounder out of Oklahoma. So 2 offensive linemen in the transfers in for West Virginia already, and that's the only position that has multiple players there at the same position. Everywhere else has been a little bit more diverse, but you see what West Virginia is targeting here: players in the trenches. They needed a tight end. They probably still need at least one more tight end. Still going after receivers and still going after defensive backs, definitely. So with that being said, let's take a look at our transfer target list, see what players West Virginia is going after. We'll move some names off this list that have committed elsewhere, but we do have 2 more additions to this list as well. Let's first talk about some of the names that we're going to be removing from the list. Cam Rice, which was one that we kind of felt good about. We thought West Virginia would have a decent chance because his West Virginia ties, but he was also super highly sought after a great season at Ohio. And unfortunately for the Mountaineers, he ends up committing to Maryland. Cash Cleveland, the Colorado offensive line transfer, freshman All-American. West Virginia was trying to get into the mix for him, but ultimately he ends up committing to Texas Tech I mean, Texas Tech continues to do a great job in the portal on the football side here, now landing Colorado transfer Cash Cleveland. So we'll go ahead and take Cash Cleveland off the list. So there's the couple names that we had to take off of the transfer target list, but we do have a couple names that we've added. Let's talk about each one of those really quickly before we wrap up. Let's talk about Florida safety Greg Smith, who Tim Thomas shared on X that he has been reached out to by West Virginia. You see the long list of schools that have reached out to him. So he is certainly highly sought after. A lot of competition for West Virginia to try and get Florida safety Greg Smith, but West Virginia knows that they're trying to focus in on honing in that defensive secondary, making it improve. We needed that for a while now. This coaching staff trying to make it a priority, and they continue to target defensive backs. Greg Smith is one of those. You'll see him on our transfer target list. But this other one is very interesting and one I'm definitely keeping an eye on because this is a highly rated guy. Let's talk about it. And as you see here, we're talking about Noah King, who put out on social media recently, West Virginia offered. He's been sharing some of his offers. And this one's intriguing because he actually was a class of 2025 recruit that enrolled early at Kansas State as a true freshman, went through spring practice there, but then decided to hit the portal after spring practice. And guys, he was a super high rated cornerback in this past year's class. Let's take a look at where he rated. All right, so this is on the 247 page. Multiple things to like here. How about the 6'3", 195-pound size, and the fact that it's the very, very rare case of a transfer that's going to be a true freshman, since you see he rolled at Kansas State on January 15th, then left the program, hit the portal after spring football. But look at his rating. He was a 92 rated 4-star recruit on 247 coming out of high school, a top cornerback in the state of Ohio, a top 25 nearly cornerback in the country. So this would be a huge get because of his length, because of how highly regarded he was. And glad to see the West Virginia is getting in the mix for Noah King, who we will add to our transfer target list. Let's take a look at that list one more time, and then we'll close up shop here on this transfer portal update. All right, so one final look here. These are the names that West Virginia has been in contact with, have offered scholarships to in some cases, and even had some of these players visit. To my knowledge, the ones that have visited thus far are linebacker Shea Taylor, wide receiver Justin Smith Brown, and then coming up on visits, I believe we have Jacob Robinson, defensive back from Emory and Henry, Darian Lewis, a defensive back from Akron. So, once they visit, we'll keep them on commitment watch here on the CRW, so be on the lookout for those names. But some really intriguing targets here that West Virginia is after, and I'm sure there's more names that they're after that I just haven't been able to find out about. Sometimes they like to keep this thing under wraps and try and get guys in on visits, offer them scholarships without people knowing, and maybe even get them to commit in some cases. But if any of that does happen, we'll continue to update you on future transfer portal updates. But keep an eye on these names, including the two most recent additions to our list here, Greg Smith and the ever-intriguing Noah King at the defensive back position. But shout out to Josh Isosa for committing to the Mountaineers, joining the transfer in list, which is going to continue to grow here in the near future. And we'll continue to cover that list as it does grow here on the Country Roads webcast. We'll keep you guys up to date with all the transfer portal news here. So be sure you're subscribed to the channel. And hey, these are just my thoughts, my opinions. I'd love to hear yours as well. Drop them in the comments section. We always appreciate those interactions as we continue to try and grow the CRW community throughout Mountaineer Nation. Having said that, as always, I'm Jordan Cruz. And until next time, let's go Mountaineers.